Yes. Hello, my friends. Good to see many of you who I have not seen in some time. You're alive. You're alive. I know that. Unless we're in some weird fucking parallel universe, you're alive. Now, how you're doing, we'll find out. Maybe through story, maybe through the chat. I already put a question in the chat. It's not your same old boring, where are you? The question that I'll have to put in a couple times because people don't see it. What's one thing that tends to help you when you're feeling really shitty? Love that question.
Seeing your face.
Okay, well, you got to put it in the chat. They got to go by the rules. All right, I love this. All right, cool. Always happy. One of my favorite events. We've been doing it for, over 2 years now. And I always enjoy it. So as people roll in, at some point I'm going to ask who has stories. And then, at some point, if you want to hang around after the stories, we do a sort of post-story Q&A salon type thing. And it's usually about 90 minutes max. But at any point you can leave. No offense. I hope you don't. Also, no, I'm recording this. So for both storytellers and non-storytellers, I do want to record these, preserve them, post them for the world to see because these stories matter, but you don't want your face to be seen. You can hide that rather easily. I think you understand how Zoom works. Top right, 3 buttons, bunch of options, stop video, I think, or there's 2 ways to do it, right? Stop video and just stop your damn video. That's all. You'll still get to hear and see everything. And this will not be a Facebook Live or anything fancy like that. But I will say, and I'll repeat this again, and I'll put my question in on the chat again. If when you're telling a story, for whatever reason, you don't want it recorded, really important to tell me that so I can simply pause the recording. A little bit trickier for me to do that after the fact because then I got to go in and edit, and I hate editing. I'll do it, just don't like it. All right. I'm seeing people from different spheres of my life, which I appreciate. A lot of storytelling folks, a couple people from my other podcast that deals with suicide. And who else knows? I think, hey, David, how are you?
Yeah.
There's a few people I'm not sure I've met or it's been a while. One of them I'm looking at least I can see, is Martha. Hi, Martha.
Hello.
Where are you this evening? Where do you live?
Somerville, Massachusetts.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Hey, C, long time. How you doing? Jamila believes one of my NC people. Good to see Nancy again. There's a few people. You can keep your video up. I see Callie and Krista. Just wanted to say, hey, how you doing? Callie, have we crossed paths before? I apologize if we haven't. I've forgotten, but I'm not a very bright man.
Never met before.
Where are you?
I'm in Vancouver, Canada.
Okay. We got at least 2 Canadians here representing. The other one's nodding her head. Other part of the other province, different province, but Canadians unite. I understand. Checking out the chat as we wait for more people to roll in because you're all early. But we've got people when they're not feeling well who like to walk and box and light bulb jokes. Okay. Just feeling it and letting it go. Cat videos, obviously. Music and fur babies. Jesus, what has this come to? More bulb things. What is this? Thank you, Erica. Her answer is one of our events. David says a phone conversation helps. Agreed.
No, that was me that said light bulb jokes. I think they're so funny.
Yes, you put it a couple times, no?
No, I gave you a joke and said that I liked.
How many folk singers does it take to change a light bulb? 2. 1 to change the light bulb and 1 to write a song about how good the old light bulb was. Yes, that is kind of funny. All right, let me let a few more people in and put that question in again. And this is a good time as we wait for more people to come in to let me know. And the easiest way to let me know if you want to tell a story tonight is just to put it in chat. You could just do it to everyone or just do it directly to me. I'll see it. You'll tell me, you'll tell in the order that I get people's responses. And if you change your mind at any point and say, yeah, I do want to tell a story, of course, you can do that. I've got Cali, and I'm going to just say it aloud so everyone knows, and I know Cali, Martha, Barbara. That is 3. I've got Anne. All right. Anybody else? Now, here, I'd like to believe that this is a pretty safe space. I know people define that word differently. This is not for feedback. There's other things that I and other people here do. This is for you to have an opportunity to tell your story in front of other people. If you saw the description, I ask that it's not too long. 7 minutes is long enough. If you go over, nobody's going to mute you, but I just ask, kind of respect the fact that it's not supposed to be a 2-hour solo show just on your stuff. That you are hopefully telling from a scar and not a wound. And I know sometimes that's hard to distinguish. But if it's the kind of thing that happened this week, maybe too soon. And that it's a story. Again, this is really a storytelling event, not a spoken word or poetry, though those are beautiful forms. But do your best to make it a story. We might have different definitions even of what exactly that means. But Barbara's asking, where are all the people with the Y chromosomes? I know, right? We got 1, 2. I see Andrew here's 3. Now, I don't want to assume I know anything about people and how they identify, but I'm going to assume me, David, and Andrew have Y chromosomes. All right, give me a break. And anybody else, no pressure, no judgment. I'm going to get myself in a lot of fucking trouble. This always happens. While we're waiting, feel free to unmute if you want to share something, yell at me, rant, and then eventually we'll mute people as they start to tell their stories in about, I don't know, 5-6 minutes max. Erica, so far I've got Callie, Martha, Barbara, and Vandy, and Erica, those 5. If there are more people, I see Linda.
You missed me.
I never miss you, Tracy. Give me a break.
You missed me. I'm in there.
All right. Well, if you don't mind the order, I'm going to stick to that. Then after Erica is Linda, and then Tracy. 7 stories is good. We've got room for a few more.
You can put Tracy before me. Tracy, and I switch slots.
You get wait a second. Who all of a sudden is? When did I not become the decision maker? Gee.
Well, you're outnumbered. No Y chromosome.
Clearly.
So, yeah.
Erica doesn't have to give up her spot for me. It's okay.
Callie, Martha, Barbara, and Erica, maybe. Linda, Tracy. All right. I'm just kidding. Hi, Demetra. Good to see you after all this time. Just asking people a couple questions in the chat. The question was, what's one thing that tends to help you when you're feeling shitty? Maybe nothing. And that's okay too. And then the other question, you can either raise your hand now or simply put it in the chat. If you have a story that you'd like to share with us this evening, let me know. We currently have 7 storytellers. And as I let Karen in here, she is the 21st person here, which is great. Let me tell you something. Exercise, Purky says exercise, talk. Getting people to come to virtual events is hard these days. So I really appreciate you spending a little part of your Sunday here with me and us. When Martha feels shitty, she takes a hot bath, candlelight and tea, and cuddles with her cats. Martha, even though I asked for one thing, I think that's kind of all one thing. No, I get it. It's like a package. It's the Martha package in Massachusetts. Just so you know, after people tell their stories, I tend to chat a bit. One of the things I ask them is if they're involved in anything in the storytelling world, they want to promote and let us know so that we can support you when we're not here. And then when everyone leaves and the stories are over, I'll also ask for other people to unmute if you want to share stuff, because we've got teachers here, we've got storytellers, we've got event producers, among others. So I always welcome trying to help everybody out. Cool. So, and if I didn't specifically say hello to you, it's not intentional. Leslie, hello. Karen's got a cool photo. Can we all agree? Can we all agree that Karen's winning the photo contest tonight? There's no prize, but. And then AK's got something with Van Gogh, and I don't think AK understands that Van Gogh or Van Gogh, depending on where you are, is my favorite artist. So thank you for that. Yeah. All right, cool. And let me just check. Tracey likes chocolate. White, dark, milk, other. What do you got?
Dark.
Mm-hmm. Because you're a little bitter, aren't you?
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Other
Not that
than
you notice.
no, never. Other than our two Canadians, is anybody else from another part of the world that's not called the United States? Not well, either from or living in, I suppose.
I think you are now.
I'm currently I'm temporarily in Mexico. I'll be coming back, hopefully never, but probably in the first week of February. Linda likes to clean her house, sweep dog hair, mop the floor, and cook all at the same time. And Damita, exercise. Yeah, which I haven't done a lot lately, and I should. And yes, Barbara is giving everyone an open invite. This is going to be a very slippery slope, Barbara, but you made it public. Drop in on me. Not sure exactly what that means.
No, I said, Linda, feel free to drop in on me. If she's cleaning and sweeping dog hair and mopping floors and cooking, she's welcome to come visit me whenever she's feeling shitty.
I feel like that's not the same experience for her, but I don't want to speak for her. Again, Callie, Martha, Barbara, Ann, Erica, Linda, and Tracey. Anybody else? And of course, you can change your mind as the evening goes on. And I will remind you once now and once after we're done, if you want to stick around for our conversation after, it's an opportunity to tell your story and to have other human beings hear it and to witness it. That is it. And if you're curious about their experience and you want to ask them more about it, of course, we welcome that. And I know you all know this, but if you read the description, it is not the place to do any of the bullshit, like trying to fix their problems or offering your pontifications or your annoying little platitude. I'm projecting because I do that shit. I'm sure you don't. Just a place to talk about things and keep it very real. And I think in doing that, we tend to feel a little better. So that's one of the meta goals here. Nutella, yes, see. Who doesn't love Nutella? Right. See, you don't often use Zoom, so thank you for being here on Zoom. There are other options, right? You can use like Facebook and Google Meets and shit, but I just went with Zoom, and and just that's what it's been. Who invested in Zoom? Please tell me sometime in 2020, because that probably would have been a good investment. If you didn't, and you're still looking for something or someone to invest in, I'm good. Me, here I am. There's an investment opportunity. Big one, looking for a big fish, looking for the whale. All right, 7:10, as promised, we're going to start. We have currently 7 storytellers, which is one of my favorite numbers. I'm going to ask that everybody mutes. Remind you again that we're recording, so if you don't want it recorded, please let me know before you start your story and not after. And of course, at any point, you can use the chat. You can direct that to a particular person or the entire group. I think everyone is muted, and I'm going to welcome Callie to the Grit stage. Where are you, Callie? Because I want to make sure you're unmuted. You are, and spotlight you. And whenever you are ready, the stage is yours.
Thank you. This is a true story from Vancouver in 1997. It's called Do Not Shoplift School. After I was arrested, I had to go to Do Not Shoplift School, a 3-hour deprogramming session led by an embittered social worker named Dawn. Perhaps without noting the irony, the authorities located Do Not Shoplift School in Metro Town, Vancouver's most ambitious shopping mall, in a basement storefront that may have once been a thriving retail outlet until forced out of business by assholes like myself. The site of our rectification now featured little more than an overhead projector, exposed fluorescent lighting, and gray plastic chairs arranged in rows. Tattered off white blinds on the mall-facing windows mostly concealed the space and the collective shame of the pupils. At the front of the room stood Dawn, a career social worker who unfortunately did not realize that jaundiced-looking people with hair the color of a nicotine stain should not wear mustard while working under fluorescent. Don registered participants coldly, then flicked on his projector at precisely 6:30 p.m. Probably thinks shoplifting is a victimless crime, he began rather accurately. It is not. Don ran gravely through shoplifting statistics arrayed by light on the scuffed wall behind him. There were figures about revenues lost to shoplifting each year and so on. I frankly did not care about revenues lost. The numbers were meaningless to me. Not only was I vain and self-concerned, I could barely conceive of any sum of money greater than a few multiples of a welfare check. At the time, that was about $500, and maybe it still is. Nor was I particularly interested in or capable of empathizing with shop owners. To me, shoplifting was 100% justified, was my noble, albeit petty, stab at class warfare. Stores had things and I didn't, I reasoned. Stores had things, and that meant they were rich. I had no idea how to be like them, and the notion that stealing a bottle of nail polish, say, could induce a butterfly effect strong enough to wipe out a Walmart seemed frankly absurd to me. Looking around the room only reinforced my convenient conclusion. Surely the fact that many of my classmates that do not shop at school weren't white proved our behavior was at least partly a product of inequality. Don seemed to sense that he tapped his audience's moral reserves. He switched tactics and switched off the overhead. Let me tell you about Doreen. He lunged one foot onto the seat of his chair and leaned on his knee in a confiding pose that also showed the outline of his testicles. Doreen was caught shoplifting right here. He pointed at the floor for emphasis, in Metrotown. This made sense. If shoplifting is indeed a protest crime, soulless Metrotown was a perfect target. Don disagreed. Doreen had absolutely no reason to steal. She had everything she could ever need, a bungalow, a Plymouth Laser. She even owned a horse. But for some reason, Doreen couldn't stop stealing. And what she stole was cheese. Oh, for fuck's sakes, Don. Cheese? As soon as Don said cheese, everyone thought Doreen was an idiot. Also, everyone identified with Doreen. Don regrouped. But Doreen had plenty of cheese. Her freezer was full of it. And when she was busted that day at the store, her fur coat, her pockets, her purse, Don shook his sallow head in dismay. All full of cheese. Now, why would Doreen steal if she didn't have to? I talked to her. I found out. Turns out Doreen was angry. Doreen had feelings she couldn't understand. Turns out Doreen was addicted to that high, that danger. I was having a hard time relating to Don's thesis because I was both all the time angry and had no horse. I was also constantly high on pot, incapable of taking advice, and so disembodied from abuse that I was unable to detect subtle changes in my emotional state while shoplifting. All I noticed was suddenly having a thing I didn't have before. And that seemed really quite nice. With my help, Don went on, Doreen turned it around, and you can too. Shoplifting is not about being broke, he said. It's a compulsion. It's a risk-seeking behavior that puts you in danger. What you need, he insisted, is self-control. As Don went on, I thought about the punks I knew who stole steaks from Safeway to sell on the street to buy heroin. I thought about my own young life and the 20-plus days I spent penniless every month after the welfare check ran out. I thought of how the sheets, towels, and underwear I owned were bought, used, and so on. Don's idea was frickin' nonsense to me. Maybe poverty had been bad for my imagination, but to me, Doreen was clearly an idiot. There was no way we all stole the same way she did. I had to set the record straight and absolve my classmates of this unfair guilt trip being laid on them. Excuse me, Don. I raised my hand and stood. No offense or anything, but I don't see a lot of millionaires in this class. I thought my classmates would be impressed, but they mostly just looked amazed. Now we all looked at Don, who wasn't impressed either. His mustard demeanor hardened as he put his lunge leg back on the floor. Excuse me, miss, said Don. At the end of this class, I read an evaluation about how amenable you are to these lessons. And if you don't pass, you go back to court and maybe to jail. Is that what you want? Oh, you were right this whole time, Don. I sat back down and Don continued with his bullet points. I give Don a hard time. I call him chartreuse or whatever, but really I'm grateful. Don had boundaries. I wish I could say I never shoplifted again after Do Not Shoplift school, but at least I began noticing that I was often angry or thrill-seeking when I stole, and that I sometimes did it even though I had cash. My behavior gradually lessened until finally, several years later, as I considered popping tags in a Valley Village change room, I remember clearly that one of the reasons I now had a job was so I didn't have to steal anymore. You have a job or you shoplift, not both, I told myself. I took the items up to the till to pay.
Boom. Thanks, Cali. I'm going to remove your spotlight. That was wonderful. I appreciate it. It's always a little challenging going first. Now that I took your spotlight off, I can't find you, but it doesn't matter because I'm supposed to be looking at the green dot and not you. But guess what? I don't fucking care. So, question for you. Just curious, how long you been doing the story thing, crafting, telling up in the Vancouver area?
A few years, quite a few years of different writing and performing,
Yeah, very cool. Appreciate that story. I always love the stories where people are talking about stuff that they're not necessarily proud of, or the things that went awry a little bit. I'm not saying you necessarily feel that way, but I just tend to favor those stories. So I really enjoyed hearing that. So thank you once again. Now, before we move on to our second storyteller, Martha in Massachusetts, say that 5 times fast. Is there anything that you're involved in, Cali, story related, whether it be an event you're going to be appearing in, perhaps something you're teaching, or anything you want to let us know that we may be able to support you with? Are you muted? I think you're muted. Yep, you're muted. Unmute yourself for a moment.
Yeah, nothing that, you guys can come to, because nothing on Zoom or anything, but
right.
On Tuesday, I've got an excerpt from a script I've written that's being read at a table reading. Should be fun.
So if you're in Vancouver, people.
Yeah, so if you're in Vancouver,
are you
the club at 7 on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to say I'll be there, but that would be lying. I want to, actually. That's not lying. I just won't be there. Something we did at another event that I liked that we don't usually do at this event. If you have any questions for Cali about what she just shared, can you in the chat send them, and make sure you send them directly to her? I assume you know how to do that. If not, put your hand up and I'll explain how to do that. And the reason is, after we're done, assuming the storytellers can stay, they get to choose which questions they want to answer and share with us. And I do that as a caveat only because sometimes people sound like really inappropriate or weird questions, and obviously you can ignore that. But if you do have a question or two for her, just chat. Fine, I think it's Cali A, right? Is that how it's done? Send away. And hey, Cali, if you don't get any questions, that's cool. At the end, we'll still have some questions for you anyway. But thank you for going first. I'm going to mute you now, and thanks again. You're already muted. All right, people follow directions that aren't named Tracey. Okay, let's move on. Martha in Massachusetts, I'm going to find you and spotlight you. And we know you like baths and cats and a couple of other things. Where are you? Martha, there's all kinds of storytelling stuff up in Mass. We know a lot of people up there who are, a couple of them are here tonight. I'm going to stop actually talking and mute myself, and the stage is yours.
All right. Now, it's 1997. I'm 36 years old, and I'm seated behind my psychiatrist, Dr. Hammer. His back is to me, and he's typing into his computer my answers to his questions. He first asks, any suicidal ideation? And I say no. He does not ask if I have homicidal thoughts. In fact, in the 10 years I've seen Dr. Hammer, not once has he thought that I might be a danger to others. And it amuses me because his back is to me. He also asks how my sleep is doing. Am I getting 8 hours a night? And I say, yes, I'm getting 8 hours a night. But I don't tell him that in addition to those 8 hours, I'm also sleeping on the couch a good 12, 14, 37 hours a day. And I'm watching Law and Order, SVU marathons. And I don't tell him that I live with my mother. And she has an invested interest in that I take my medication. So she comes to me twice a day and makes sure I swallow my pills, Depakote, clonazepam, risperidone. If you don't know what those are, Depakote's for bipolar illness. Clonazepam is for anxiety, in my case, agoraphobia. And risperidone's just hallucinations. It's not like I'm Jesus personified or anything. I have a committee of people in my head talking. They all talk at the same time and they don't get anything done. Dr. Hammer then asks me how my social life is doing. And I say that I get out, but he is my social life. And I don't tell him that it takes hours for me to shower and put on my makeup and try on clothes over and over and over, just to find the right outfit that makes me look the most sane. Because I don't want Dr. Hammer to suggest that I go back to the mental hospital. And so he asks many other questions and I have all the right answers. And then he turns his swivel chair around and faces me to tell me how well I'm doing. And then he picks at his dirty fingernails and says, this might be a good time to tell you that I'm burnt out on psychiatry and I'm going into real estate. And in that moment, I know two things for certain. One, I would never buy a house from somebody who had dirty fingernails. And two, telling me in the last 2 minutes of our session, after I've seen Dr. Hammer for 10 years, my very best friend saying that he's leaving, I know is completely wrong. And my voices in my head start screaming and my mood goes up to here. I'm feeling such a rage, I can't even describe it. I know I have no control over what's going to come out of my mouth. And I lean in and I say, Dr. Hammer, good luck with real estate. And then I leave. But while I'm leaving, he hollers after me, you're going to be fine. But I'm feeling like I am so angry. And I walk the streets going home and I see people, they smile at me, they make eye contact, I smile, make eye contact back, and they pass me. And it hits me. They aren't hearing my voices. They have no clue what's going on with me. And Dr. Hammer said, I'm going to be fine. And I am. Thanks.
Thank you. Martha, always challenge him on Move That Spotlight. Always appreciate yet again the stories that are the hard ones, the tough stuff we go through, and finding moments of humor and levity. That is hard to do. I'm not analyzing stories. This isn't about feedback. I'm just appreciating, because I know how hard that is to do. So for both Cali and Martha, I appreciate you doing that. And we throw around the word vulnerability a lot these days, and sometimes it makes my eyes roll. But when I legitimately hear it, it makes me tingle, and I like to tingle. No, that I'm not being weird. Just saying from time to time, it's nice to tingle. Leave me alone. Now, Martha, anything you're involved in that we can support you, presumably online, unless people are in Massachusetts?
Myself, I'm unmuted again. I actually am doing a stand-up comedy competition on Wednesday, February 8th at the Burren in Somerville. So you'd have to live here.
All right, stand-up comedy and storytelling overlapping. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you do live in that area, can they just message you here or elsewhere and find out more?
Yeah.
If you have a question for Martha, presumably related to what she shared, just send her that question, or I suppose it could also be a comment. directly to her, and then she could filter through them. And then afterwards, she can choose to share what she wants to share. I'll keep reminding people of that as you listen. There might be something that pops in your head. And for both Callie and Martha and everybody else, you'll see some people putting things in the chat. So I encourage you to check them out. I've got a few announcements of my own, but I'm not going to do it just yet because I'm a tease. That's what I'm called. People call me a tease, if you know what I'm saying. Erica, they do, okay? Sometimes that word is actually used. I'm just saying.
I can't believe you caught my face.
I see everything.
That's hilarious.
Oh, I don't see everything, but I say I do. Next up, let's move this right along because no one wants to hear me babbling for many a minute. We have the lovely Vandy Purky, who resides in Chicagoland. There she is. Anne, would you please unmute? A common guest here at both Mental Health Happyish Hour and other good events. Spotlight you, and whenever you're ready, young lady, take it away.
February 2020. My head has become a screeching monster. Outside it is gray and frigid. I can't manage it. In the morning, the screeching monster waits for me to open one eyeball, then it starts. I can't get up. The sense of impending doom is like a weighted blanket. I peer with one eye, and the monster is perched at the foot of my bed in the guise of a wicked crow. You're no good. You will be depressed for the rest of your life. You will spontaneously combust from all the mental bile. You'll end up in the whack job ward making friends with the depressed housewives and the 20-somethings who are there for fentanyl abuse. My husband will bring me a plant like my mom did in 1989. I try to ignore the morning madness, running a tune like Julie Andrews' Spoonful of Sugar in The Sound of Music. I dive bomb a spiritual book hidden in the folds of my bed and plaster it onto my head like a football helmet. Now here's the thing. The crow gains momentum as spring approaches, a slow simmer of death. But I am schooled to acting as if I'm fine. I'm 18 years in recovery. I feign happy, joyous, and free. Then the onslaught gets darker. I remember talking to my therapist on the phone in the car on a breathtaking June day, and I am describing to her how the darkness is soaking me, and all the professionals now say, maybe you need the hospital. Yes, the hospital. Then it gets even more progressive, but I am acting fine. Fine. Then it's too loud to act fine. I am not fine. A loop starts. Kill yourself. The death rattle will never go away. There will be no rebirth. You're fucked. I finally surrender and get help from an outpatient program. How comforting to be around others who have the death rattle too. I get on lithium, and that squelches the horrifying endless loop of death. But I know this is just the beginning of the work. I will be brave. I can deconstruct the crow. Boom.
Thank you, Anne. Anne was going for a shorter story there. Some of you may not know that one of the things Grit does has been doing since summer of 2020 are 99-second stories. So for some people, they like to play with that format of trying to figure out how to have a legit story with a beginning, middle, end, and all the other good stuff in such a short time. So thank you, Ms. Vandy.
Thank you, Sean.
Unfortunately, if you were in the slam, I'd have to eliminate you because you went over, but it's not a slam. It's an open mic. Thank you. You're always so honest. And I also know you've been going through some stuff, right? We're all going through stuff, but you're going through some stuff.
Yep, I am.
And you're always so honest about it. And one of the things
way to be.
Well, it isn't for everybody.
Right.
And one of the things I love about story is that it's usually a first-person thing. And so we're not telling people what to do or how to be, but just telling our own experience. Lived experience, call it what you will. Yeah, love the crow too. Crows and cheese and other symbols and animals and foods that we can connect to tonight. Thank you very much. Promoting things for Story Jam or other things upcoming in the next week or month?
I'm just getting back in the game. There's some stuff on the horizon at Zuzu's, but I've taken like this minor time.
Cool. Doing what you got to do, which is a platitude, which I hate. I just did it. At least I'm aware. And Vandy Purky is part of, I don't know the specific dynamics of Story Jam, which is an awesome storytelling organization led by the lovely Steph Rogers, where they take stories and they make original music out of it. So it's kind of a unique take on it. So if you're ever in Chicago, check out one of their shows because it's pretty cool. And you also do your own open mic, right? North of Chicago sometimes.
I do. North, yes.
Yeah. In the sort of ritzy area. The nice area. No, that's all good. Thank you. Again, Ms. Vandy. You were actually supposed to go fourth. I skipped Barbara. She's probably so
I thought I was.
Yeah, Barbara even just took a drink. She's like, fuck Sean, liar, bastard. You see, she's miming. She's going to apply to clown school soon. I should remove you from the spotlight. I should have done that, Anne. I'm a mediocre host at best, but introducing to the stage Barbara, who also lives in the Chicago area. I don't know how far from Vandy. You guys have at least one thing in common. Let me find yourself in spotlight.
We have more than one thing. Anne Vandy Purky is best friends with a second cousin, one time removed.
Don't even get me started with the difference with all that shit. Nobody under
Kim Scotty, is that how she says it? Yeah, we've been messaging, and she tried to call me, but I was busy. But yeah,
she was my favorite friend.
Is this the story? Are we in a play? Is the story started? I'm so confused.
No, story hasn't started. But you said that's one thing we shared in common. I said we have something else that we share.
Well, after your story, or maybe after all the stories, I'm going to ask you, and only you, Barbara, just to explain to me, like as I'm a third grader, because I kind of am, what the hell the difference is really between first, second, third, or first removed, second removed. I don't get it. I've never understood it. I don't think I want to, but I'm going to give you one chance. Help me. Okay. But that said,
I'll be more than happy to. I'll be more than happy.
In Chicago, Barbara Peterson, here is her story.
Okay. It's time for supper, and I'm perched in my usual seat, directly across the table from my Gramps. That's my mom's dad, who's lived with us since I was 5. I'm anticipating the predictable 3-act dinner theater drama that's about to play out with the smug amusement of the 16-year-old know-it-all I am. Act 1. After everyone has a plate full of food and before he takes his first bite, Gramps watches with a mixture of pleasure and relief as the rest of us chow down. Now, once we've all had our fill of pork chops, mashed potatoes, and overcooked green beans, there remains 1 pork chop left on the serving platter. Act 2. Gramps eyes that last chop with palpable desire. I mean, he wants that chop bad. But first, he must interrogate us to make sure, absolutely certain, none of us want it. He starts with me, the youngest, working his way around the table until he gets to my mother, whose irritation with his compulsive and worn-out ritual has been steadily rising, and she's unable to contain herself any longer, and she erupts in the compulsive and worn-out way she always does. God damn it, Dad, just take the damn pork chop. We've got plenty of food. No one here is going to starve. Act 3. Gramps still hesitates, staring at that pork chop, his body literally twitching this way and that, his hand gripping and releasing his fork as his desire for the food silently wrestles with his subliminal fear that food may soon be scarce and he may be compromising his family's well-being. Desire wins out and he sheepishly stabs the pork chop with his fork, red-faced with shame that somehow he's failed at being the protective patriarch. As he slowly chews his meat, it seems to turn to ashes in his mouth. I don't believe he ever enjoyed any second helping. It took me some years to understand Gramps got that way by being witness to the economic devastation and the food shortages of the Great Depression, even though he himself was employed and kept food on the table for his family. My mom's predictable angry outbursts was a manifestation of her own dormant fear of scarcity that Gramps' dinnertime behavior just stirred up, a fear she inherited from him and also from growing up through the Depression. So lately I've been thinking about how worldwide catastrophic events like the Great Depression are like giant stones thrown into our global social pond, causing ripples of changes that carry us away from placid continuity into different futures and shaping us in ways not of our choosing. As I worked on this story, several passages from 2 books surfaced unbidden from my own subconscious deep. The first is a passage from Alan Patton's Cry, the Beloved Country. The novel about the tragic murders of 2 sons, one black, one white, in apartheid South Africa, didn't resonate with me as much as this beautifully poetic summation of the story's heart. Cry, the beloved country, for the unborn child that is the inheritor of our fear. Let him not love the earth too deeply. Let him not laugh too gladly when the water runs through his fingers, nor stand too silent when the setting sun makes red the veld with fire. For fear will rob him if he gives too much. The COVID pandemic is the most recent cataclysmic out-of-the-blue boulder to crash into the global pond, and it's profoundly changed the direction of our futures, changed our characters in very unpredictable ways. Now, at the beginning of the lockdown, I believed the isolation would only last a few weeks, a month at most. I made the best of my time with everyone home. I made new friends in the neighborhood. I worked on my house, on stories. I got to know people from all over the world via Zoom. But as it wore on and on, it took millions of lives, and it ruined businesses and scattered people and isolating us from our normal groups and activities. Before the pandemic, I was constantly on the move, attending classes in improv and acting and storytelling and performing on stage in them. I made a lot of new friends, and I felt so stimulated and fulfilled. I spent the majority of my days commuting into Chicago to do these things, but not anymore. The most disturbing change for me is the months of forced isolation has sunk me into a state of uneasy inertia, shrinking the world around me. I've been carried into an eddy of ennui without a paddle to push me or a rudder to guide me forward into a new, more rewarding life. Why can't I just move forward in a meaningful direction? As I ruminated on this question, a passage from another book, Jerzy Kaczynski's The Painted Bird, floated into awareness. This horrific novel is about a well-to-do Polish Jewish child of 9 who was sent into the countryside to escape the Holocaust while his parents fled Warsaw. He winds up far from safe, his dark hair, skin, and eyes making him the target of superstitious peasants' cruelty. On every page, he witnesses and suffers unspeakable physical torture, psychological humiliations. I was stunned and appalled, but only one passage made me weep. One of the brutish farmers he stayed with caught rabbits to raise for food. Quote, I recalled the hare, a fine, large animal. One could sense in him a drive for freedom, powerful leaps, playful tumbles, and swift escapes. Locked in a cage, he raged, he stamped his feet, he beat against the walls, he struggled and fought, but finally gave up. One day, the cage was inadvertently left open. The hare jumped out and started towards the meadow. He seemed to savor his freedom and just sat down with ears pricked up. It was all his own. When suddenly the alert ears flopped, he sagged somehow, grew smaller. He turned around and sluggishly moved towards the hutch and jumped back into the cage. I closed the door, though it was unnecessary. He now carried the cage in himself. You know, I was that unborn child who inherited her family's and country's fears. I am that once fearless rabbit who now carries the cage within me that shrinks my world. But now that I recognize this invisible cage, I hope I can learn to free myself from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara Peterson with an O. A lot of metaphors, symbols tonight with the rabbit and all sorts of stuff. Another super honest story. And I have to admire or appreciate everybody's done exactly what I encourage them to do, which is to actually tell a story, to keep it kind of at or under time. And you know, I can't tell you if it's a scar or a wound, but hey, you're getting through your stories. you were able to craft something. And typically with wounds, that's probably not so easy, if at all possible, to do. So thank you. Not always the case with all these mental health Happyish hours. So this one is flowing beautifully. With 25, I'm going to remove spotlight, keep forgetting, but 25 people are here. Thank you very, very much. I don't know. Yeah, I just really appreciate you spending part of your Sunday evening with us. If you're West Coast or in Hawaii, maybe it's not quite evening. But nonetheless, and Barbara, I appreciate you choosing the blurry background like I do. Just wanted to say. We're going to talk about the cousin thing after. Am I right? We're going to talk about the whole first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, once removed, second removed. We do that after. After?
Yeah, right. After. Yeah.
I want to put together some sort of easy flow chart for me to understand. I'm more of a visual guy. Okay. Ironically. Let's keep that. I was gonna announce. Yeah.
For anybody who's interested, I'm going to put, hold on.
Yeah. Hang on. Oh, I didn't ask. Apologies. My bad. Yes, send Barbara any questions, comments about her story directly to her, should she want to address them later. But Barbara, sorry, what do you have going on that we might want to support?
Okay. There's a lot going on, but this Wednesday, one of my favorite open mics is the Michigan Meetup, and I put in the URL to register. Jennifer Otto is like the North Central chair of the National Storytelling Network, and she runs it. She's a fabulous, both personal narrative and traditional storyteller. You know, she's a lot like
double. She's got the double going.
Like Franklin.
Ms. Neshama Franklin, the queen.
Yeah, she does both, but it's a wonderful environment. I've been trying to encourage more people to go there. She's a wonderful host. So if you don't have anything to do, you want to tell a story this Wednesday, it's like every third Wednesday of the month she has it. So I put the URL in there.
If you put the link in there, just make sure do we see? I don't see it. So.
Oh, I already put it in there. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was answering Anne, and
No, do it. Listen, do it to everybody.
Here we go.
If anybody has an interest, hang on, copy and paste it somewhere, because when the meeting ends, even though yes, the chat might be saved, I'm not digging for it for you. So just take it if you want it and put it somewhere safe. Yeah. Again, send Barbara any questions that she may want to answer later. Thank you again, Barbara. So we had Callie, who's not in Cali, and we had Martha, who's not in the vineyard, but probably not too far. And then we had Vandy and Barbara both in the Windy City. And it's not windy necessarily, or at least it's not named that because it's windy. Do you see what I'm doing here? This is literally.
No, that's incorrect, Sean. It is windy in Chicago, and that is why it is called the Windy City.
Incorrect.
What are you saying?
It's a political thing.
We're
not going to get. This is not the time to get into a back and forth, but I'm happy to do it after the stories. And
I didn't catch it. I'm sorry.
Totally cool being wrong. They should call San Francisco the Windy City because it's actually windy. And they should call Chicago something else. But they don't. It doesn't matter. And I still don't know why third cousins, once removed, I don't know what it means. I don't get it. So windy or not. But yes, Nancy, we can continue that conversación después. I'm going into Spanish. Next step, going back to the West Coast. It's late afternoon, early evening there. That's how time works. Her name is Erica. She's also often attends this and other grid events, which I appreciate. Callie, it's called Windy. Let's just get this out of the way right now so it's not all up and down. Windy because of the hot air from Chicago politicians. Okay, fair. Thanks, Callie. In Vancouver, we got Canadians informing us about American politics. I love it. International, global world. Erica Blumfield is here. Storyteller, among other things. I'm going to spotlight her. Unmute yourself. And Erica, when you are ready, of course, the stage is yours.
Okay, 1 second. What is wrong with me? Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so the pandemic hit, and because of that, my insurance changed and I couldn't see the psychiatrist that I got Sean really right in the middle of my story. They're supposed to take You're on mute.
One, sorry. Two, sometimes when hosting, you have to multitask. And three, just go back and start again. And I promise not to do that. Okay.
Okay. But I should turn off my chat notifications anyway.
So it's on both of us. All right. I'm muting.
Yeah, but still rude. I'm glad I saw. Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh. Sorry, guys. Okay, so before the pandemic, I had the same treatment program for like 16 years, basically. But because my insurance changed, I had to start looking for a new therapist. So like 5 months passed since the pandemic had begun. No, like a couple, like 1 or 2 months in, I was like, okay, I really need to start seeing a therapist again. Like I'm losing my mind. Like everyone was having a reaction to the pandemic. So I call, and now there's all the telehealth. So I'm like really open-minded because it was really, really hard to find someone who had open appointments. So all my life, pretty much, except for like a couple, I don't know. Like, I was like, I should see a woman. Like, that was my first instinct. Like, I just felt like a woman understands a woman's experience more fully, but I couldn't get a woman until or someone identify as female. So I couldn't get anyone for a really long time. So I was like, they were like, we have someone, and, he was a gay man. And I was like, okay, that's good. Like I have a lot of close gay male friends, and it's different than like a white cis male. I felt more safe, like opening up and for that. So it's no big deal that the thing is that I was worried about my weight, and like 3 sessions in, he's like, oh, you look like you lost some weight. And I was like, oh my God, like, that's so bad. Like, that's not cool. You don't comment on someone's body. So I was like, okay, next. So then the next therapist, I was telling her that I was, and like, it was like a month and a half later, right? So I'm getting like crazier, and the pandemic is raging. And I have this like weird relationship with this long distance guy, and it's getting weirder because, I don't want to get into that, but it was, I'm not sure how I'm going to address that part yet in the story. Okay, so then the thing about her was that she was super into God, which is fine for people who are super into God, and she wore a religious symbol, and she kept bringing up God, so she wasn't for me. The next one, then I had like a phone session with someone for an intake, and she literally texted me the next day basically saying I was too crazy, smiley face emojis. And I was like, what? Like, that's terrible. Okay. So then finally, after all these horrible experiences, I found Maya. She was so ethereal and peaceful and calm, even through Zoom. Like her energy just like radiated through the computer screen. And we started having like really positive sessions where I felt really safe to talk to her about, alcoholic father, like rageaholic mother, all the bad decisions I've made, crazy bad decisions I've made with every man I ever dated. And, we delved into my mental history past, like 2 hospitalizations and homelessness, and like clawing my way back to rebuilding my life. And this had like gone on for months. And then this one day she's like, I have the perfect thing for us to watch. And she puts on a TED talk. And I'm like, oh, cool, like a TEDx talk. I love TEDx talks. And it's this like really cute, like pretty looking woman. And she's talking about loss and when shitty things happen to you, while she's telling me this story about being in Turks and Caicos. She lost her husband, which was horrible, but she had a lot of money. She lived in Turks and Caicos. And this woman was saying, just lift yourself up. Stop complaining. Like, shit happens to you. And I'm like, this therapist thinks that I'm like a boo-hoo crybaby who's not picking themselves up. And I'm like, I'm like seething. And then I'm like, don't flip out on her, Erica. So the session ends almost. And I say to her, you know, I cannot believe this is what you've gleaned from the 4 months that we've been working together, that I'm some kind of boo-hoo baby. I was like, anyway, I have to write this story. But basically the point is, she was an asshole and an idiot. And most therapists are, in my opinion. Okay. Thank you all for listening.
Yes. I didn't listen. I was just messaging people the whole time.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Cool, Erica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting takeaway. You know what was interesting? Thank you for the story, number one. Always. I usually don't comment on stories, or at least not like the details, more sort of a meta, like, thanks for being honest. You know, it didn't really ever occur to me as a stupid guy, and I'm not talking all guys are stupid, just me, like commenting on someone's weight, even like as a, hey, you look good, you've lost weight, still might be considered not so good.
Yeah. I don't know. We just live in a weight obsessed world. And it's like, don't look at my body, worry about your own. And then it makes you feel like, what did I look like? A real fatty watty boomalatti last time?
Wait, say that word again. Sorry, what?
That's what I call myself, you guys. Fatty watty boomalatti.
Oh,
fatty watty boomalatti.
You should try to order that at Starbucks. Fatty latte boomalatti.
No, fatty watty boomalatti.
Right, fatty watty boomalatti, because you're getting coffee. Whatever, it's LA. Shit's different there. I get it. Fine. Thank you.
That's funny.
Erica's been involved in a lot of storytelling stuff. She's got her own show she runs and podcast she's on, and she teaches. So what do you have in the next soon period of time that we might be able to learn more about?
Well, I have a show February 5th that I'm doing, which is my show called Revealed, and I host it and book it, and it's been going really well, and it's really fun. Karen actually is going to be on in March, and then I'm going to start recording it, so hopefully I'll put it out, and then, you know, hopefully then that way everyone can hear it and hopefully enjoy it.
Yes. Hear and enjoy and other verbs. If you have a question or a comment specifically for Erica about that story, and perhaps it can bleed into some other related areas, direct message her. And all the storytellers aren't committing to staying after, but if they do and they want to address that, well, I welcome that and encourage that. So directly to Erica Blumfield, question, comments, and we will move on. Thank you, Erica in California. I'm removing your spotlight now. Wow, LA. You know, you just never know what's coming out of LA. It's just that kind of town. It's not, it's just, am I right? Can I get some?
A huge siren went by. It's the kind of town that what?
You just don't know what you're gonna get out there. It's just different. LA is just a unique place. You know what I mean?
Like with people, you mean?
Yeah, just with everything.
Yeah,
you know, it's not like most. Yeah, we'll talk when we talk about the cousin thing as well. I'm gonna mute you now, but it's not personal. And right. This is great. 25 people. Thank you. But still, Karen Golden has the best photo. Look at it. Find her. No, Karen, that's awesome too. But just for a moment, the photo, it's so good. Come on. I want to guess, not now, at another time, why that photo was originally taken, the purpose or the intention. I have some ideas. I'm probably wrong. I want to ask, a couple people are maybes. So right now we still have Linda, Tracey, and Zach. And then we have a couple of maybes. I'll follow up with the maybes, and that would be 10, which is probably the max amount of stories we want to do tonight, because we still want to get to our fancy global salon, which is I'm stealing from the French. Up next is a lovely human being who, if I gave you 5 guesses randomly, you would be incorrect as to where she lives. I always talk about where she lives because I don't know many people there, even though it's not that far from where I reside in North Carolina. Her name is Linda. And I'm not even going to say where she lives. Maybe you'll just hear it or hear her story and figure it out for yourself. Spotlight on, mute off. Break a leg, young lady.
Everyone I know needs therapy. I went to the grocery store a couple days ago, just a little shop and save here in Belington, West Virginia. And I stood in line behind a mom. She screamed at her kids. She picked up a can of beans and threw it at one of them. She said, "As soon as I get you brats to the car, I'm gonna kill you." I'm going, oh my God. Should I follow her? Make sure she's not serious? She's not gonna hurt these children? Should I call the cops? She's having a really bad day. I was worried. I had heard my mother shriek like that at me and my siblings. And then later on, she would get off her sawed off wooden broomstick. Nah, she didn't ride it around. She beat us with it. Like I said, everybody needs therapy. My aunt, who lives nearby, she's telling everybody in the community that Bigfoot's wife eats lunch with her every day on the front porch, and it doesn't matter how bitter, cold, and snowy it is here in West Virginia. In the evening, she leaves out a plate of hot food on the back porch for Mr. Bigfoot, Mrs. Bigfoot, and their 14-year-old daughter. My uncle, who lives nearby, says, "Linda, this winter, I've seen some of the fattest raccoons I've ever seen here in the hills of West Virginia." We know who's getting all those meals. A really sweet lady that lives near me just got so depressed this winter, she has to take off and go live with her daughter up in the holler. She's having anxiety and panic attacks. She said it was so sharp she couldn't breathe. She's 4 years younger than me, and she's a nice, kind, gentle soul, but she just can't take it anymore. Last summer, a neighbor who lived across the road, who has an issue with substance abuse, kicked and hit his kids. I think they were 6 and 12. The next day, the little boy picked up his new puppy, kicked him like a football across the yard, and then threw him 20 feet over a fence. I did call the cops this time. When he found out, he got so mad. Next time he saw me in the yard, he threatened to beat the shit out of me and fuck me over. I just read a story that Steve Jobs, you know, the guy that founded Apple, he spent years feeling anxious and nervous, but he figured out how to channel that anxiety and turn it around, and he changed the world of technology forever. He used psychedelics. Like I said, everybody I know needs therapy. I struggle with blackness, especially whenever the winter gloom and the snow and the ice, everything just descends on me. If there was a hole under me right now as I sit here at this table, I'd crawl in. I wouldn't come out till April. I think all humans need therapy. You know, children get checkups for their eyes every year when they go to school. They get their hearing checked. They get tested for their learning skills. I think something else should be tested, and it should be mandatory in every single state and city. Every child should have their mental, their emotional health checked. Sometimes starting in grade school, it should just be a normal part of being healthy. I mean, look at all the shit we grown-ups put kids through. By spring, I'm going to crawl out of my dark cavern. I know I will, because there's going to be sunshine. It's going to get bright and happy. And I know a spot in my yard where magic mushrooms grow. Like I said, everyone needs therapy.
Thank you, Linda. And this guy is heading to West Virginia for some magic mushrooms. Thank you very much. Okay.
We'll have a party.
Hell yeah, we will. Thank you very much, Linda. Good to see you again. As always, you have always have this interesting sort of bluish hue in your lighting. I love it. No idea. Yeah, it's just an interesting blue thing. Linda's in West Virginia, by the way, which is not Virginia. Okay, it's west of it. It's a totally different state. Been a long time participant of grit stuff, including the mental health Happyish hour. So whether that is someone that applies to you or not, I appreciate it. And the other 25 human beings who are here, check the chat. More stuff happening. Send Barbara any questions. Let me mute somebody if that's not you, Linda, who's being loud. I'm sure it's inadvertent. And if that's like your brother who's there, just give him a quick slap across the face and tell him to shut up. I'm playing send Linda any questions or comments directly to her. So should she be here after, she can address those she wants to. Linda, anything you have going on in the story world we might want to know about? I have a feeling it's a yes.
I do. A lot of it's not going to really start happening until spring. I do personal narratives, and I do a lot of open mics around West Virginia, but I'm going to be doing some living history reenactments come April. Mm-hmm. So that I'm really working a lot this winter on that, and I'm writing a book.
What's it called? Do you have a title or no?
It has a title. It's called Burnt House.
Memoir?
No, it's a true story of a place in West Virginia. It's set in antebellum 1850, and I did a lot of research last summer on it. Even went and interviewed people that lived in the area and libraries, and drove all kinds of back roads and
got to do the research, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're in a happy place when you're driving the back roads.
I am. When I'm outside
on mushrooms,
fresh air. Yeah.
With a little psycho mushroom action. I actually met Linda in Asheville. I've actually met some of the people here in different places, but not too long ago, Linda and I met at a moth of all places in Asheville, North Carolina, with her son. Is that you, Linda? Let me mute you for a second, just because it's loud. Hang on. Is that you? Yeah. Linda's got something going on. Sorry, Linda. You had a weird background thing going on. Something about the static energy in West Virginia. It makes strange noises. Or ghosts. You might have a few ghosts hanging out in your living room. I don't know. Thank you, as always, Linda. Not sure what her last name is. I always see different last names, so we're just going to call her Linda. Next up, friend of mine, also involved in a lot of grit stuff. She lives in Maspeth, Queens, which is probably within 12 miles of where I was born. Do you care? No. Her name is Tracey. She's unmuted. I'm going to spotlight. Break a leg, my dear.
It was a summer Saturday afternoon in 2007, and we are going out to lunch. We park the car, and I get out, and I step onto the curb. And this is very shortly after I've had a neurological disorder and lost quite a bit of my vision. And so step onto the curb, I put my hands on the parked car that's next to me, because when you don't have a lot of vision, particularly the way I don't have a lot of vision, which is that I'm completely blind in one eye, I don't have depth perception, something as simple as stepping onto or off of a curb is suddenly kind of an ordeal. You know, my balance is off. I can't tell how high the curb is. And I hate that my life has changed in a way where these very simple everyday things require me to need help, require me to do extra work, require me to think about it first. And I like to do with as little fanfare as possible. I don't like to draw attention to myself, and falling down, which is a distinct possibility, would draw a lot of attention to myself. So I put my hands on the parked car next to me as I step up on the curb. And I hear a little voice coming from the driver's side of the car. So I kind of scurry around the car, and I see a little girl, just a teenager, in the driver's seat of this great big white SUV. And I say, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. And she looks at me and says, "Don't touch my fucking car." And I felt like someone slapped me in the face, and I was stunned for a minute. And I said, I was just stepping up onto the curb. I was just using it to steady myself. She said, "I don't care what you were doing. Don't touch my fucking car." And by this time, my husband was standing next to me and said to the girl, "She's vision impaired. Leave it alone." And the girl said, "I don't give a shit what her fucking problem is. Don't touch my fucking car." And by now, we're both standing in front of the car, which is a Lexus SUV being driven by a teenage girl. And I wonder what her experience is. It's obviously not her car. And I'm trying so hard to fly under the radar, and she's just drawn so much attention to what I'm trying to keep quiet. And I'm embarrassed, and I'm angry, and I'm furious, and I don't even know all the emotions that there are. But now we're standing there full on arguing with a teenage girl in a luxury automobile. And I feel like I'm outside of myself watching this happen. And I understand that finding balance is more than just steadying myself when I step up onto the curb. It's understanding what my new place in the world is, figuring out how I fit into it, understanding how the world sees me and how I see myself. Boom.
She said it. Boom. Thanks, Tracey in Maspeth, Queens.
Thanks, Sean, in Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico. I happen to know Tracey in part because she's involved in a group, a Friday group, which, by the way, is open. So if you ever want feedback on a story, as of this moment, Fridays, 3 p.m. to 5-ish p.m. Eastern, come. Reach out to me, reach out to Tracey, get the link. And I've heard versions of that story. So thank you for sharing that very much.
Still working on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, of course.
Still working on it.
Still working on it. What do you got going on? I know you got an open mic and some other stuff that you want to share with us.
If you're in New York tomorrow night, I'll be at Freddie's Bar at 8:30 on Astronovic's show. Next Sunday, I'll be on the 99 Second Slam online. And if you're in New York on the 31st, Ronna Levy and I host Just One More Thing at Pine Box Rock Shop in Brooklyn. It's an open mic and storytelling show.
Indeed it is. And I've been there. It's awesome, as is Rana Levy, who's her co-producer. She's awesome. And in Brooklyn, not in Queens, but they're both boroughs. And should you be wondering, a borough is a county, but a county is not necessarily a borough.
That is correct.
And if you're wondering what a third cousin once removed is, I have no fucking idea.
I can tell you that if you'd like to know.
I'm just wondering after if someone can help me. Now, and I also like the way people, so I say mental health centered stories, and it's interesting how people approach that, because it really is kind of a large, I don't want to use the spectrum, but it means different things to different people, which I like. And it's not necessarily only stories about dealing with bipolar, for example. It means a lot of things. Mental health is broad. The stories tonight and the courage has been phenomenal. So thank you very much. We've got 2 more storytellers. Tracey shared what she wanted to share, but should you have a question about that story for her, direct message her in the chat, Tracey Starin, comments, questions, and then she can choose what she wants. We've got 2 more stories, so that will leave us probably about a maximum of 30 minutes after our storytellers to answer those questions and have a conversation, because I have a hard out at 9 Eastern, but I think we have plenty of time for that. Next up, mi amigo in North Carolina. It's in he's Charlotte, which, you know, I'm partial to not Charlotte, but that's where he is, and he seems like a good guy. And he's actually, after we'll find out about his story, we will learn more about his project or initiative to have something that might not be too dissimilar to this in person. Let me find you, Zach. Unmute yourself. Let me spotlight you. There you are. And whenever you are ready, young man, break away.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
So I'm kneeling on the mat as a pair of strong, hairy thighs cinch in around my torso. And the man at the other end of those thighs owns this jiu-jitsu gym that I found in the suburbs of Philadelphia, where I've flown in for the week to celebrate Christmas with my family. And I asked the man, how do I get out of this move? And he tells me the only way to escape is to stand straight up. So with all my might, I launch myself up off the mat. I land back down, and I hear the loudest pop my body has ever made before falling back onto my butt in terror. I'm terrified because exercise is everything to me. A couple of years ago, I'm alone in my room, and there's just this one thought clogging up my mind. I blew it again. Now I'm all alone. When my last relationship implodes, I can't stop thinking this thought, and I am thinking it so much that I stop sleeping, and my body and my mind begin to fall apart. For 2 months, I try everything from valerian root to lorazepam, but nothing seems to help. Until one sleepless night, I'm reading a book by this sprinter turned philosopher, and I'm so tired of being so fucking tired that I just lace up my shoes and I head out the door and I start running. And it feels not terrible. Not great because my legs are jello, but not terrible. And the next day, my legs are a little less jello-y and it feels a little less terrible. And the same with the next day and the next day and the next day. And so I make exercise my higher power, whether it's sprinting, calisthenics, trail running. Exercise is my church, and I worship there 7 days a week. And eventually my legs are rock solid and I'm sleeping again, and it feels fantastic. And most importantly, this routine, this ritual provides me some shelter from those terrible thoughts and that all-consuming feeling that I am all alone. Back in Philadelphia, it's the morning after the jujitsu snafu, and I'm waiting for the nurse practitioner to give me the good news as he examines the x-rays. The furry jujitsu master had all but assured me that it was just a sprain, moving one hand over the other to demonstrate how a tendon can slide guitar string-like over the bone and back again to make that loud popping sound I had heard. And then the nurse practitioner tells me, oh, it's definitely broken. But it's not till a few days later when I say my goodbyes to my family and my parents drop me off at the airport and I crutch through the TSA and hobble onto the plane and flop down into my seat and the plane takes off that it really hits me. As the plane takes off, my heart sinks and I realize this new exercise-less, one-legged existence is gonna be unbearable. And I didn't even know the half of it. I didn't even know the fear of it, the fear in knowing that now I only have one good leg. So what happens if that one goes? The fear of maneuvering myself in the slippery tub where a single wrong move could refracture my ankle and set me back months. The fear of falling down a flight of 3 fucking stairs, or the helplessness that I'm gonna feel when it takes over 10 minutes to put on a sock, one sock, or when I have to shower hunched over like a man baby in the tub because I'm too weak to stand up. Or the humility that I'll feel when at my favorite coffee shop, I pick up my coffee mug as usual and I try and crutch back to my table and I literally say out loud to the barista, I can't do this. Or the loneliness I'll feel when that same barista who I've been coming here for months and I thought we were cool. She says, I got you, I'm sorry, I totally forgot, only to never show up at my table. So I have to ask a stranger if they'd please grab the coffee for me. And of course, no exercise. But as we land and we all stand up to deplane, I look over across the aisle and I see this big burly man with tattoos up his arm and a trucker hat pulled low, and he's staring at me. And I'm wondering what his deal is until he says across the aisle in front of everyone, hey man, please let me help you take down your bags. And then I'm going out of my favorite cafe and I'm hobbling to the car and I have keys in one hand and crutches in the other and I'm balancing back and forth and I see this guy walking down the street and he hurries up towards me and I'm like, what does this guy want? And he says, please let me help you put your crutches in the back of the car. And as we chat for a minute, he tells me that he was just in a boot for a couple months and he understands. Or at the grocery store, when I arrive at the checkout line, only to discover that my wallet is back in the car. Sorry,
you're good. No,
okay.
You're good. You're good.
I'm almost there. And I normally would be a hop, skip, and a jump is like a Pacific Crest Trail hike there and back. But when I return, I see a lady with an outstretched arm and my groceries are in a bag. And I say, oh no, I still have to pay for those. And she says, no, they've been paid for. And I say, by whom? And she says, by me. And she smiles. Or the guy, as I'm walking out of the grocery store, who is this squat, dirty white shirt wearing, beer-bellied guy with a sort of a snarl on his face. But as soon as he sees me, he jumps out and holds the automatic sliding glass door open for me with a smile. And we both take a beat, and then we both burst out laughing because it's an automatic sliding glass door. And he says, well, I guess it's going to hold itself. And I say, yeah, but it's the thought that counts. And that's when I realize that this horrible thing, this injury that I thought was going to disconnect me again from the world, has shown me this wondrous side to the world that has always been there, but I never knew existed. And that is that in every room, there seems to be helpful people, people that care about strangers, because they've seen, because they know what it's like to be injured. And I don't know how I'm going to wrap this up, but I think there's something in it. Boom.
Sometimes you say boom and that's it, baby. All right, Zach and Charlotte, thank you, sir. Thank you for that story very much. You are our 8th of 9 storytellers. Fucking great night. Thank you so much, everyone, storytellers and others, for being here. Zach, 2 questions for you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
The first one isn't so much a question, but should anybody here have a question or comment for Zach, find him. It's Zach. Message him directly, and should he choose to, afterwards, we'll have a little time for him to answer them briefly, and that goes for everyone. 2, I know you're involved in a few other things. Please share with us your project in Charlotte for, I believe, mental health related open mic. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I promise I came to this idea independently, but Sean, you've been super helpful and supportive, and I appreciate it. And yeah, my buddy and I decided that there weren't enough spaces in real life where we could talk about our scars and connect through them. And so we have created a story jam at Hattie's in Charlotte, if anyone is here and knows that place. It's called Once Upon a Trauma Story Jam.
Came up with a name. Okay, that's always hard.
Everything.
All right, so you're working out all the details. When's the first show?
First one's February 1st, and we've got an Instagram and everything. So
okay, you got IG. If I can't be on the first one because I'm only a couple hours away, but I promise, and this is public, I will be at the second one.
All right, it's recorded. I appreciate that.
Definitely. Thanks for your story. Got a question, comment for Zach? Message him directly. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it. I love the fact that you were so honest about not knowing exactly how to end your story. So you just said it and then said, boom. Good choice. Okay. Your spotlight is off now. Final storyteller of the evening. And by the way, we still have 25 human beings here, which means the stories are good. I've done Zoom long enough to know, that if people weren't appreciating what they were hearing, good number would be doing something else, but you're here, so thank you. And as everybody, storytellers and others, check the chat. There's a lot of love coming through there. Our final storyteller is also in California. Not that Zach is, but Erica is. Her name is Nancy. I'm going to ask her to unmute herself. I'm going to spotlight her. She is our final storyteller. Should you want to tell a story in the future, of course you can. After Nancy's done, I have 90-second announcement, so don't please leave immediately. And then if you want to hang out for this little chat, well, I'd love for you to do that too. Now, there you are, Nancy. I'm going to spotlight you, young lady. And when you are ready, we want to hear your story.
Okay. Can you please not record me?
I don't want to stop it. I want to pause it. Yeah. Wow. Whatever I just said was lost, and it was genius. Damn. Story of my life. Anyway, I was just saying thank you very much, Nancy, in the capital of California. And thank you for everyone for being here. Before you leave, we've got a few things, so I hope you can hang out. And we'll be done in the next 25 minutes and you can go back to your lives. Love your stories, love your courage. Can't say how important I think it is for people to share this kind of stuff, for people to hear it, whatever they do with that information. If you know anything about me and my work with Grit and my work with the Suicide Noted podcast, if there is a tagline, it is being or feeling or helping people feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. And I just think we've done that. So thank you. In a few moments, I'm going to ask everybody who didn't tell a story if they want to pop on real quickly and announce something they're doing that we can support. After that, I will ask our storytellers to address any questions they may have gotten. I want to announce a few things. This is going to be a list very quickly of a few things that I and Grit are involved with, and I'm sharing this with you. I'm not much of a promo guy, but you or you may know somebody who can help. This is the following stuff. 1, our website will be up soon. 2, our Facebook group, as you might know, is a little more active. So we're trying to post more things there. 3, this event, Mental Health Happyish Hour, will happen every 4 to 6 weeks. 4, I told you there's a lot. Next week, Sunday, same time as the 99-second Story Slam, which is one of my favorites. So if you want to learn more about that, reach out to me. And there's a couple of things that I think also you might be interested in. One, I'm in Mexico, and we have believe it or not, we have our second event here in which I've worked with storytellers to tell their story. We had one in late November. We have another one on Monday. So that's going to be cool. I don't think anyone here is coming to Mexico, but I'm sure you support us and we'll feel that. Every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, there's an open swap shop, which means you can come, tell your stories, get any kind of feedback that you want. All of these things, it's a little bit easier if you just message me for the link. And the other thing that I want to share is moving forward soon. There's a couple of big projects, but one of them I want to talk about, which I don't have a lot of information like literature on that I can send you, is I want to start spending a little more time with people just like me, middle-aged men, because, hey, I mean, we're all going through stuff, but as a middle-aged man. So I want to start working with middle-aged men who have stories to tell. So if that's you and that's something that might resonate with you, reach out to me, because we're going to be put together, whatever we call them, workshops or boot camps or things in which you can get those stories, craft them, tell them, and tell them to the world. That's not the full list, but I don't want to burden you with so many other things. And I think that is it, probably missing 1 or 2 things. Is there anybody here now who didn't tell a story? Put your hand up literally or with a little icon and share with us something that you want us to know about with respect to your storytelling, story producing, story teaching. We'll give you a minute to do that, and then we'll get back to our storytellers who can answer those questions. Nope. Oh, everybody's still here. None of you have got stuff going on? Your lives are rather simple, I must say. Jesus. Or maybe story's not the center of your damn life like me, and that's probably a good thing. Anybody else, something going on that you want to let us know about? Maybe you could share a link with us so that we can support you, because we want to do that. Going once, going twice. I'm going to check the chat. And of course, like everybody else, send Nancy any questions or comments that she can choose to answer. And Nancy, I didn't answer this, but in a moment you can share other stuff you might be involved with story. Yes, and you can open for the 99. And Vandy Purky, who told the story tonight, sometimes doesn't take part in the competitive component of the 99, but she is sort of our sacrificial lamb, and she tells the first story and always does a wonderful job. So of course you can. Yes. Zach, middle age. Hey, man, look, here's what I'll say. If you identify as middle-aged, my friend, you're middle-aged. The age don't matter, because most people don't want to identify with that shit.
I think that's an amazing group to try to do, Sean.
I'm going to do my best. We're going to try to do some virtual. We're going to try to do some in person. And I'm also aware that every group needs this kind of thing, but I just feel like, some of I have another podcast. We actually Grit had a podcast for a while. We shelved it, so we stopped sort of in the fall. It's still around, but we haven't done active podcasts. But I have another podcast called Suicide Noted. Every single week, I speak with somebody, a candid conversation with a suicide attempt survivor. A couple people who are here tonight have been on it. It's one of the maybe the thing I'm most proud of in the entire world. So if that's something you want to learn more about or actually talk with me about and join me, I would welcome that. And we are on an ongoing effort to try to merge those two worlds. So not too long ago, we had a show where the personal narrative stories were from suicide attempt survivors. And again, a few people here were on that. We're going to do that again. And I'm actually thinking, and this is rather bold, that I want to get suicide attempt survivors who are going to work with me and a few people on my team for 99-second stories of their suicide attempt, something related to their suicide life. So throwing it out there, I'll follow up with you. That shit will be announced on Facebook and website and other places you can likely find it. So, but thank you, Anne. I'm hoping that project goes well, because I do think there's a need. And I don't know all the details and research and demographics. There's a few groups that are attempting to end their lives and often succeeding more than others. Trans community, young people, rather old people, and guys like me, middle-aged guys, particularly out west in the US. Part of that's because of guns, part of that's because of loneliness. I don't have all the answers, but the demographics that are particularly vulnerable, I think we should try to work with a little bit more. So,
I had a friend who just killed himself, was 3 months into recovery, and he was in the Navy. So he had access to guns.
Yeah.
And I think in the Navy, the cops, the military, you cannot handle the feelings. And his wife had told him she, wasn't going to reconcile, and he killed himself.
You all know, so if you've known me for any period of time, you've heard about my friend Jimmy, late 90s, been a cop for a couple of years, ended his life. I'll never know the exact reasons. I'm not sure if we can ever know that kind of thing. One of the reasons was probably access to firearms. I know at that time, and I think it's changed some. The other reason is, if you're struggling like that in the New York City Police Department, and this is not a knock on the New York City Police Department, but it's just truth, is that, you can talk about that, but there's consequences. Your career might be in jeopardy. So, it's complicated. As weird as it sounds, as dark as some people might see it, I think these are so valuable, and I love these conversations, whether they're in story form or conversation form. If nobody else has anything they want to announce, I want to ask our 9 storytellers to we're going to do a little popcorn thing here, and I've got about 15 minutes. Anybody else who wants to stay on after I'm going to make Erica our host at that point. So if you want to keep talking, that's great. I have a couple of people I need to talk to about their stories for Monday here at our event. Of our 9 storytellers, again, that was Callie, Martha, Barbara, Ann, Erica, Linda, Tracy, Zach, and Nancy. You may or may not have gotten questions or comments sent to you. So at any point, do any of you want to share your answers to those questions? And or do people have other questions that you can unmute and simply ask them? Callie, yeah.
Oh, I'm scrolling back to get the person's name. Thank you. I got the one question. It was from, I can't see who it was from, but the person asked me, it was Sherilyn. Hi, Sherilyn. Thank you for your question. She asked me, do you still have the urge to shoplift? And the answer is very rarely, so that's good. So I think in the last 5 years, maybe one time, I remember recently, I was somewhere in a store and I just realized how easy it would be. Like, I think I was looking at something expensive that seemed too expensive to me. And I just was like, oh, this would be easy to steal.
Mm-hmm.
But no strong urge at all. Like, because I really appreciate that my society, maybe it's Canada a little more than US. I hope US has sort of like deferment or whatever. You know,
We have jail. We're good with jail here, Kelly.
yeah, like here I was very grateful for the mercy. Like, I was a first offender. I wasn't technically, but it was the first time I was caught. And they gave me a chance, and I really feel grateful for that. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I learned from that close call. Luckily, I was able to stop. So thank you very
much. Yeah. Maybe if you're here or elsewhere, and it's not a knock necessarily on our system, but you know, you don't get a first or second chance, and you're maybe not here with us tonight telling that story. You know, things go different, and that's common. That's not a, you know.
Thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, and good to see you and hear you again, Sherry. It's been a minute.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. Other questions or comments that have been addressed to our storytellers that any of you want to answer? And again, if you want to just unmute, whether you're a storyteller or not, and ask somebody a question, by all means, we've got some time to do that.
Sean, can I say something?
Of course.
Hi. So I sent a direct message to that I'm showing that I can't remember the person's name. When I don't see, there we go, Martha. But I wanted to just comment. I work in mental health, and what Martha's psychiatrist did, wrong, all over the place. Wrong.
Obviously, yes, for sure.
It may not everybody, you know, may not be aware that, you know, I mean, when we're saying goodbye, it's a whole, you're spending months talking about the fact that we're going to say goodbye. I sat here stunned, a psychiatrist.
I'm sure that many of us here have many and interesting stories related to our experiences with therapists or counselors, hospitals, so much stuff. But yeah, thanks, Nancy, for those comments. Other ideas, thoughts, comments for anybody here, particularly the storytellers? And just, can you just be, is that you, Linda, again, with that background ghost noise? My God, you have ghosts everywhere.
I don't have any noise. It's quiet here.
Yeah, well, not to us, but anyway, what would you like to ask?
So someone commented to me, it's a mystery as to why some people who were horribly abused like you do not turn into monsters where others do.
Okay.
And that is just something for discussion. I've talked to my therapist about it, you know, a lot. And I have 5 siblings. 3 of them are a monster of one sort or another. I have one brother who goes into black rages, totally blacks out, gets violent. So I went no contact with all of my family. Last June, my blood pressure dropped to 110/70, and I have peace. So just had to cut the toxin, you know, just let it go. So I guess that's just something to throw out for discussion, you know, why? And I'm going to turn my mic off so that you don't hear my ghosts.
Well, now it's okay. The ghosts are quiet, but okay.
They're quiet now?
They are for now, but who knows? Thank you for sharing that. That's always interesting. Yeah, like why is it that some people turn into just absolute, for lack of a better word, monsters, and others don't? It's fascinating. So it's more of a rhetorical question, at least I think, but yeah. I want to remind, yeah, go ahead, Erica. Yep.
I was just reading about this because I try so hard with my older sister because we you know, we like come from the same childhood, and I know how traumatizing it was, right? So I try to like get along with her and not let her trigger me and all this stuff. But it just blows my mind. Like, she's a total narcissist. And, you know, I see it, and I see it playing out. And then I read about how I was always like she was like the golden child, and I was like the outcast child. I think in psychology, they call it the black sheep. And I was reading about that. They've found in a lot of studies that like the child that's the outcast has like really amazing resilience, and that there's something about their makeup where they didn't back down, they called it out, and somehow that's why they get outcast, and is horrible, that causes trauma, but that their resilience is, you know, just stronger. So so, you know, trauma is no joke. Like, bad shit happens and people don't break the cycle, and it makes people, and like personality disorders, not chemical, you know. And anyway, that's my take on it. But I also, yeah.
And we know the expression, and it's a bit trite, but you know, hurt people, and that's the cycle, right? Damage people, and that's a hard fucking cycle to break.
It
and
is.
I have to say, if you can break it, you're a fucking goddamn hero, legit.
Well, I feel like people can. I think that I think people definitely can beat it. Like, I look at where I came from, and I come from terrible humans. Like, they're so awful. They are monster people. And I knew that, and I was like, I am not going to be like these people. I want friends. I want to feel empathy. I want to have purpose and see things through, you know, a positive lens. And I feel regretful for behaviors that I may have had before. I worked my whole life to not be like them. It's such a relief to know, you know, I don't talk to them. I have nothing to do with them. But I just think that, you know, you have to, and I don't know, like, some people just, you know, if you do the work, I think you can break the cycle.
I also think some people, and this is probably not popular, but I think some people are fucked. I mean, it's unpopular, you know. I think we live in a world where we think, you know, if you try hard enough and do this and do that, you'll be okay. I'm not sure if that's always the case. I just don't know. I don't know. You know. Other thoughts about that?
Oh, you're still recording. I don't know why I'm like the recorder monitor today, but
you want me to stop it? You're the boss. You want to stop it?
Ooh, sure.
Or maybe we want this part of the conversation. This conversation is also interesting.
That's true.
Well, in 5 minutes, I'm going to leave and make you host, so those others that want to continue talking. And at that point, I'll stop the recording.
Sounds good.
Would really be curious, and no pressure, of course, of those people who are here who have not spoken. I won't call you out. If you have any thoughts or questions or comments to the storytellers, or perhaps a little vignette or a moment or two about your own mental health challenges, or even why you're here.
Allison, sorry, go ahead.
One at a time. Let's start with AK.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I'm Allison. I was just wondering from Nancy if you have told your mom that you're developing the story, or what is her like take on it, or, you know, has it branched out into any kind of reconciliation or whatever?
I think you're muted, Nancy. Hang on. You gotta unmute.
Sorry. Did the camera and not the microphone. No, my mother will not hold herself accountable. She will not say, this is, part of, why I had to draw some very serious boundaries with her and my sister and my brother. She will not hold herself accountable. And it would be so amazing to me if she said, you know what, I am sorry. I didn't realize how this made you feel. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I will try to do better. She won't do better, but the fact that she could acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't, she will not do it. She is, this is what she is.
Yeah.
She does have good qualities. She's got a wicked sense of humor, and we get the giggles a lot all the time, but that's about it. So yeah, no, she won't. Now she just moved into independent living, and I see we're having repeated conversations within the 15, 20 minutes that we talk. Say something and she'll ask me what I just, she'll ask me something and I'm like, I just told you that about 5 minutes ago. So she's not, there's no, the woman will not hold herself accountable. And now I don't know what she remembers anyway. So
yeah. Then you got that whole other element. Yeah. I always wonder how, like, as awful as the sound is, it's like, are some of us just waiting for our parents to die? You know what I mean? I don't know. That sounds shitty, but for some, I think it's a sort of freedom, a tragic freedom, but nonetheless. And those of you that have been here and saying goodbye or have already left, thank you very much, whether you told or not. Really appreciate it. Great story, Martha. Thank you. Others that want to share about anything, question, comment? I've got 2 or 3 minutes, and then again, I'm going to make Erica and Cali Haan the host. And you could stay on for 90 seconds or 90 minutes. It's all good. Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. Barbara, I'm copying this so I don't lose it. Barbara told me the simplest way to figure out the whole cousin thing. I'm copying this right now. I'm putting it in my little notes thing.
And then message me or text me or email me if it doesn't make any sense, and I'd be happy to.
All right. Thank
you.
You
know, it's something I have to use a chart.
But it's in the chat that we can see.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I will, if I can't make sense from this, then at this point in my life, I'm completely fine giving up. Thank you, Cali, for your story. I know some of you need to leave.
Yeah.
We want to honor the about 2-hour mark.
I have a dog that has to be walked. She's like giving me the stink.
Same here.
It was fun. I'll probably see you,
Barbara.
99 seconds.
Come to the 99 next Sunday, whether as a teller or audience. I promise you it's a lot of fun. Audience gets to vote a bunch of times, so it's pretty cool. It goes on pretty fast. Yeah. I'm going to bounce. I'm making Erica host. And Erica, do whatever you want with it. Continue the conversation.